I'm going to share something raw, something ugly, and more than a bit heartbreaking. I'm Jeff, just your average guy with a tech job in San Francisco. My life was stable, predictable even. My job kept me occupied, and my kids, well, they were my life. My wife, Anne, was my high school sweetheart. We were living the suburban dream in our modest 3-bedroom house. Our story was unremarkable. Childhood sweethearts, married young, 2 kids, a boy and a girl. My son, Andrew, was into baseball, and my little girl, Mary, was all about ballet. Life was busy, but it was good. We had our routine, our family dinners, our set of movie nights, and it was comfortable. Anne, she was an elementary school teacher. Her motherly nature made her a hit with the kids, and her bright smile won over the parents. Her apple pies were a hit at every bake sale. She was an excellent mother, a caring wife, and my best friend. Our suburban home was nestled in a quiet neighborhood. We knew everyone, and everyone knew us. 2 houses down was the Walker family, the couple who would later shatter my family, my life. Jerry and Lisa Walker, the friendly couple next door with their perfectly manicured lawn and picture-perfect home. Jerry was a car dealer and Lisa, a stay-at-home mom. They were the sort of couple that would invite the neighborhood over for Sunday barbecues and cocktail parties. I guess you're wondering, how does this all connect? It does, believe me. It's not a story I wish to tell, but I must. Because I want you to know that I saw it all, every damn detail. As I was saying, I'm Jeff. I've spent most of my life working in tech, in the heart of San Francisco, amidst the chaos of startups and endless lines of code. It's demanding work, sometimes monotonous, but I find solace in its predictability. It's been a part of me as much as anything else. My kids, Andrew and Mary, are my pride and joy. Andrew's eyes light up when he talks about baseball. I swear, the boy sleeps, eats, and breathes the game. He's not bad at it either. He's the star pitcher for his school team. Mary, she's different. She's graceful, delicate, and her world revolves around ballet. My little prima ballerina, watching her twirl and leap, seeing the joy in her eyes, it's something that could make any parent proud. Let's go back to Anne. My Anne, her hazel eyes used to light up every time she laughed. She's always had this nurturing aura about her, something that drew people towards her. I was one of those people. It made her an incredible teacher. It made her an even better mother. Every student wanted to be in Mrs. Thompson's class. Every parent wanted their child to be guided by her. Anne was just that kind of woman. It's heartbreaking to see how much someone can change, how far they can stray from who they once were. The house we lived in was our little haven. A charming 3-bedroom house with a backyard large enough for Andrew's pitching practice and Mary's impromptu ballet recitals. We moved in right after our marriage, made it our home. It was filled with memories, laughter, love. It was also the place where my world came crashing down. 2 houses down from ours lived the Walkers. Jerry and Lisa Walker were as much a part of our lives as any close-knit neighbors. Jerry, with his booming laugh and endless car stories, was a fixture at our BBQs. Lisa, with her gardening tips and home-baked cookies, was always welcome at our table. They were good people, or so I thought. What hurts the most isn't just the betrayal, but the fact that it came from those we considered family. That's the thing about trust, it makes you blind. It makes you overlook details, miss the signs. I missed them all. I trusted them, but that's in the past. I want to tell you about what happened. I want to share my story, not as a warning, but as an example of what can happen when you least expect it. This is my reality. This is my story. And it starts with a betrayal that ripped apart my family, my sanity, and my life. So, bear with me as I recount the events that led me to where I am now. Because the story is far from over, and the pain is far from gone. The scars run deep, but they also tell a story, my story. And it's time I told it. All right, let's carry on. But before we head further into the depths of my story, I'd be remiss not to introduce you to one more person. Matt Walker. He's the youngest Walker, Jerry and Lisa's son. Matt's a gym buff with a personality to match his physique. Matt and I shared a bond of common interests, despite the age difference. We both loved basketball, craft beers, and those ridiculous reality TV shows you know you shouldn't enjoy, but just can't help it. Now, this ain't no ordinary neighborhood, oh no. Here in suburban San Francisco, it's a close-knit community, almost like one big family. Barbecues in summer, caroling in winter, and potlucks throughout the year. We used to have these block parties where the whole neighborhood would turn out. It was at one of those parties that Matt and Ann began to, well, bond. Matt was just starting out as a personal trainer. The guy had muscle on muscle, and an enthusiasm about fitness that was pretty infectious. Ann was looking to shed some weight after Mary's birth, so it seemed like a perfect fit. Matt offered to train Ann, free of charge. You'd think I'd be ecstatic about that, right? My wife, getting personal training sessions for free. And I was, at first. It felt like everything was falling into place. But then the sessions started to increase. Ann started spending more time at the gym. She started coming home late, always tired, always evading my questions. I didn't think much of it then. I was too caught up in the mundaneness of life, too blind to see the changes in my wife. Looking back, I can't help but think about all the signs I missed. The prolonged gym sessions, the hushed phone calls, the new lingerie I hadn't seen. But it was the way she looked at him, a look I hadn't seen in years, not since our early days. It was the look of someone infatuated, someone in love. That's when I felt a shiver of unease, a premonition of the storm that was about to hit my life. It was my world, my home, my family, and I was watching it slip away without realizing it. It was happening right under my nose, in my house, my neighborhood, my wife and my friend. It's like living a nightmare, you know. The kind where you're screaming, but no sound comes out. The kind that leaves you shaken, even after you wake up. Only, I was wide awake. And the nightmare was my reality. This was my life before it all came crashing down. A happy family man, living in a dream house, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. Ignorance is bliss, they say. But when the truth comes out, the fall from that bliss can be shattering. That's what happened to me. I fell hard. And the landing, well, let's just say it wasn't soft. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take this one step at a time. First the setup, then the fall, and finally the aftermath. Each part is crucial as the next in understanding how I landed where I am today. This is my story, my journey through betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge. And trust me, it's one hell of a ride. So, buckle up, cause we're about to dive right into the eye of the storm. The beginning of the end. My personal descent into hell. This is where it starts getting ugly. This is where my perfect life starts to crumble. Welcome to my nightmare. With the first suspicion, it was like someone had kicked the chair from under me and I was falling in a dark void. That's when I started observing them, watching their interactions, scrutinizing every move, every word. The signs were there, plain as day. Yet, I was hopeful that I was wrong, hopeful that it was just a phase, hopeful that my Anne wouldn't do that to me. I remember the day like it was yesterday. The day I finally confronted the truth, the day I could no longer ignore the obvious. Anne had been going to the gym for the past few days, returning home late and exhausted. She said they had extended workout sessions because of some fitness challenge. I swallowed the lie because it was easier than confronting the bitter truth. On that fateful day, a Wednesday, I came home early. It was the annual cleaning day at work, and since I had a slight dust allergy, they sent me home. As I walked towards our house, I saw Anne's car parked in the driveway. It was odd, as her training session shouldn't have ended so soon. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe she had taken the day off from her rigorous workout schedule. As I entered the house, I heard the sound of soft whispers and giggles coming from our bedroom. My heart started pounding in my chest as I climbed the stairs, a sense of dread enveloping me. The door was slightly ajar, and what I saw through that crack broke me. There they were, Anne and Matt, in our bed, in each other's arms, laughing about something. My blood turned to ice, and my heart felt like it was being squeezed. I couldn't breathe. I felt a wave of nausea roll over me as I stumbled back, colliding with a table and sending a vase crashing to the floor. The laughter in the room abruptly stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. Then the door opened, and out came Matt, in nothing but his shorts. Behind him, Anne stood, wrapped in our bedsheet, her face as white as a ghost. Neither of them could meet my eyes. The silence stretched on, a suffocating shroud over us. It felt like an eternity passed in those few seconds. The man who I'd welcomed into my house, who I'd treated like family, had stabbed me in the back. And my wife, my partner, the love of my life, had been the one to hand him the knife. I took a step back, my vision blurred with unshed tears. My mind was racing, thoughts colliding with each other. Betrayal, pain, anger, confusion, all warring inside me, leaving me numb. Then, I turned around and walked away from the room, away from them, away from the life I thought I had. That night, I stayed at a motel. I spent the entire night staring at the ceiling, replaying the images over and over again in my head. The laughter, the intimacy, the betrayal. It was all too much to process. The next morning, when the initial shock had worn off and given way to rage, I decided to confront them. No more running, no more hiding, no more ignoring. I was a man wronged, and I wasn't about to take it lying down. But first, I needed proof. Hard, undeniable evidence of their betrayal. For the next few days, I started documenting everything. The frequent gym sessions, the late-night calls, the whispered conversations, the secret smiles. I hired a private investigator and even installed hidden cameras in my house. It felt like a gross violation of privacy, and under any other circumstance, it would have been. But the rules had changed now. I was no longer a loving husband but a man betrayed, a man out for revenge. As the days passed, I kept gathering evidence. The late-night text messages, the secret rendezvous, all of it. I found out they'd been seeing each other for months, right under my nose. The intimacy they shared, the stolen glances, the covert touches, it was all there, displayed on the cold, emotionless screen of my laptop. My work started to suffer. I couldn't focus, couldn't think straight. I had always been the best in my team, but now my performance was at an all-time low. My boss, who had been understanding at first, began questioning my lack of interest. But how could I explain to him that my world had collapsed? Slowly, anger began to take over, consuming me, pushing me further into the dark abyss of hatred and revenge. I started ignoring calls from Anne, avoided seeing her face. I didn't want to see the guilt in her eyes. It reminded me of my humiliation, my failure as a husband. Every bit of love I had for Anne started to turn into disgust. The woman I had loved unconditionally, shared dreams with, planned a future with, had reduced our relationship to ashes. And Matt, the man I considered my friend, had played a part in it too. I kept imagining them together, their laughter echoing in my ears, their faces filled with a perverse pleasure. The images haunted me day and night, driving me to the brink of insanity. Yet, I held on to the fury inside me, channeling it into my plan. I managed to get their explicit videos, texts, pictures, enough to destroy them. The evidence was damning, painting a clear picture of their deceit. I felt a sick sense of satisfaction, seeing them exposed, seeing them for who they truly were. As I gathered more evidence, I realized the extent of their depravity. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had made a mockery of me. They had had their trysts in our house, our bed, without a care for my feelings. Anne had always been an adventurous woman, full of life and vitality. But I never thought she would cross this line. She had always said that she valued honesty and loyalty above all else. And yet, here she was, living a lie, betraying not just me but herself as well. And Matt, he was just a player in the game, using Anne for his pleasure. He was a parasite, leeching off our misery, thriving on our misfortune. I could see it in the way he looked at her, the way he touched her. He didn't love her, didn't care for her. He was just using her, using us. The pain was unbearable. But it also fueled me, gave me a purpose. I was not going to let them get away with this. They had destroyed my life, shattered my trust, and now they had to pay. One night, I sat alone in the dark, scrolling through the accumulated evidence, my mind whirling. It was time to expose them, time to make them feel the humiliation, the pain they had subjected me to. But I wasn't going to do it quietly. No, I was going to make sure everyone knew. Everyone. I had a plan in mind, a plan that would destroy them as they had destroyed me. I was no longer the meek, trusting husband. I was a man wronged, a man on a mission, and I was ready to strike. With each passing day, my resolve only strengthened. I was going to expose them, and when I did, I would ensure that they would never be able to recover from it. I would strip them of their respect, their reputation, just like they had stripped me of my dignity and love. I thought about their families, their friends, and their colleagues. How would they react when they found out the truth? Would they be shocked, disgusted, or even betrayed, just like I was? The thought brought a bitter satisfaction. They had played their game well, deceiving everyone around them. But now it was my turn. As I finalized my plan, I felt a certain calmness settle within me. I was finally taking control, no longer a mere spectator in my own life. I was about to turn the tables on them, to give them a taste of their own medicine. A few days later, I was ready. My plan was set in motion. I had all the evidence neatly compiled, ready to be unveiled. I had contacted their families, their friends, their colleagues, everyone who mattered. I had told them that I had something important to share, something that would change everything. And now I was about to drop the bomb. I sent out an email, a damning one. It had all their secrets laid bare, all their treacherous acts exposed. The intimate videos, the provocative pictures, the explicit texts, everything was there. As I clicked the send button, I felt a strange sense of liberation. It was as if I had released a burden I had been carrying for too long. It was done. I shut down my laptop and sat back, waiting for the fallout. I knew it was going to be chaotic, tumultuous even. Their lives were about to be turned upside down, just like mine was. But this time, it was they who would be on the receiving end. And I was ready to face whatever came my way. The next few days were a blur. The news spread like wildfire. Their families were shocked, their friends horrified, and their colleagues disgusted. Anne and Matt were ostracized, shamed, and humiliated. They had been exposed for the frauds they were, and there was no way they could deny it. I watched it all unfold from a distance, taking no pleasure in their suffering. But there was a sense of justice, a sense of balance being restored. They had hurt me, and now they were paying the price. It was harsh, perhaps even cruel. But then, what they did to me was no less. I was finally out of the shadows, no longer the clueless husband. I was a man who had been wronged, a man who had fought back. I had lost much in the process, my love, my trust, my peace. But I had gained something too. I had gained my self-respect, my dignity. Anne and Matt's lives were in shambles. They were now the subject of gossip, ridicule, and shame. They were outcasts in their own circles, the pariahs no one wanted to associate with. It was brutal, but it was what they deserved. They had played with fire, and now they were being consumed by it. As I moved on with my life, I looked back at everything I had been through. The pain, the betrayal, the anger, the revenge, it was a whirlwind of emotions. But I had survived, I had emerged stronger. I was no longer the man they had made me out to be. I was my own person, a person who had stood up for himself, a person who had fought back. As I ended this chapter of my life, I knew I had many battles ahead, but I was ready to face them, ready to fight. I was a survivor, a fighter, a man wronged.